Hello guys, this is Draco, once again playing Merfolk in a modern on MTGO, playing some modern leagues. I want to get to some gameplay again, just for you guys to have some cool games to watch. I'm not going to go too much in depth with the deck. We play the same deck still, and this time around we're just following up our success from live event, playing with real cards and making the top four of the Card Collective Cup in Aalborg, Denmark. So I wanted to go through some games today just because I think there was really cool, some cool gameplays. We played against some interesting decks, especially the crazy value engine that is the Elemental deck. Which we had some interesting matchups against. We also here play against Ragavan, and this is really a cool matchup. I wanted to highlight that one because stay tuned for that one. We really take it to Ragavan and fight closely with that deck, even though these guys are so strong. Um, so we run our classic list. We run our 8 lords, 8 cease effects. Other than that, Silver Adept, and nothing crazy about this. 3 main deck force negations, which is relevant. So I want to get you some gameplay from this Modern League run. We started here in the replay being down in the first match. We lost against the Blink deck, Ephemerate deck that was black and white, which was just a kind of a beating. So immediately we are down a bit, which sometimes happens for the fish, but of course we will always swim back up. So we played this game. Want to see if we can salvage the Modern League, playing and having more success here. Immediately we see this land coming in, the Spikefield Cave, which is a big indication that this could be Charbelcher. The Charbelcher deck is pretty scary against us, and our hand is really not optimized for playing against Charbelcher. Luckily, we draw the Force of Negation, really great. It doesn't really change our play. We still want to get the Tide Tipper down and hopefully hold him a bit of red mana. Red mana is important for them. So here he just plays out the Charbelcher, and this is where the Force is, of course, a really great draw. We don't want the Vapor Snack, so we might as well put that away. But unlucky for us, he has the Pact of Negation. Nothing we can do against that. This is just a great main deck card for them, because of course, yes, he will die in his turn, but he can just activate the Charbelcher on the Pact of Negation trigger and shoot us for lethal. Against these guys, we want to put in counter spells, and we also want Brazen Burrows. Brazen Burrows are good because we can have them up with our counter spells in hand, and also they can sometimes just play the Charbelcher and passes, and we can actually then bounce the Charbelcher and force him to have a stronger interaction. Such a decent card in this matchup. Looking at this hand, pretty good. I'm satisfied with having a turn 1 Vial, so we can get a speedy draw. We want to get as much pressure fast as possible and then be able to hold up a counter spell. So the Ether Vial is really important in this matchup because it allows us to board out and still have creatures. So in this situation, you could of course consider holding up counterspell with the Trickster in hand. Is actually a pretty decent idea to do that, because sometimes they might just play a ritual effect and then play the Charbelcher, and if he did that, I would not be able to stop it. So in this situation, we put down the Trickster in step instead, and played the Silver Adept from the Vial in our own turn, which meant we draw a land, we play the land, and now we can play with Counterspell up. He plays Recross the Path. This card is so important to Counterspell. It's a weird card, but it just simply allows them to stack the top of the deck so they can combo off next turn. We draw a Mutavault, which is fine. We can activate the Mutavault and attack in. We choose not to put the Ether Vial up to 3 because we just want to get the Lord down. The Svelun is not good now. We want to kill him in 2 turns. So now we say to him, you have 1 turn to kill us. He plays the Fury evoked, which is of course a great play because now he can do 2 damage to the Lord and also kill off the Merfolk Trickster with only 2 damage. So this is of course not good for us. Nothing much we can do about this. Luckily we have a Trickster in step. And he plays the Ritual into the Charbelcher, saying you have 1 round to kill us. Luckily we can. We are actually lethal on board. Okay, Charbelcher. We saw Fury now, so we want to put in the subtleties. Of course, that makes a lot of sense that they side in Fury. So I think it's correct to put in subtlety at this moment because we want to get that off board. It's not an auto include, and we are considering here what should we actually cut. The Benthic Biomancer is just early pressure, so they're pretty good. The Sverloons are not as hot in this matchup because sometimes the games go too fast. And I actually think here in this situation we could consider not cutting the Biomancer. But it's pretty tight. Biomancer is still one of the ways I use the card is that I say this is like my 59th and 60th card in the deck. So if I need a cut, I can also always cut a Binding Biomancer. We're still considering what should we actually do. What is the correct play? I actually like the Charbelcher deck. I think it's a pretty neat combo. And I remember when I saw Charbelcher for the first time. It's a nice card. Okay, so this hand is interesting. We want to keep it even though it's a bit tricky. But on the draw, I think this is a good hand. Imagine this hand without one of the vials. Then it would be a snap keep if you were a mulliganing. So I actually think it's correct to keep this hand. But the counterspell is of course going to be important. So we need to draw the island. Draw the subtlety instead. I don't think subtleties is auto include in this matchup. So we're just testing out here if they are good to have in. So this actually gives another play. Tidetaper is pretty decent again because it can get us up onto the right amount of mana. But I'm also considering should I instead hold up Brazen Borrower. But I think we need to put the pressure on and see if we can hold him off red mana. He plays Recross the Path. Can't do anything. This is where it gets scary. So I'm gonna skip ahead now because of course this takes a lot of time for him to stack his deck. I'm giving you the service here. He's stacking his deck. And because of he allows me to watch Mutavault, but I put Mutavault to the bottom. It's not a card I want to draw. Waterlogged Grove, much better. Now we have the counterspell. I'm just gonna Violent Lord for maximum pressure. So we can defend against Fury from the subtlety. We can again against Charbelcher from the counterspell. I don't know how in the world he managed to stack his deck so he doesn't have a land on top. So now we can actually instead play down the Brazen Borrower just as a pressure play, exactly as we drew it out, because this allows us to have a much faster clock. Now we're hitting in for 8 damage, which means that he'll be dead next turn, as we can Trickster in end step. He plays a Manamorphose. We'll allow that. He must have made some sort of misplay in this situation, stacking it wrong. And we are off to the next round. So 1-1, we're bouncing back in the Modern League against Charbelcher. Okay, so we play again the old Took. The old Took. I don't know how old he is, but he doesn't show any companions. This hand is really not doing anything for us. He also mulligans to 6 cards. No, actually we keep it. Yeah, because yeah, of course we had the black Glasspool Mimic. Then it's a good hand. Mishra's Bauble. Actually, we were considering should we force Mishra's Bauble. That might be the right play, but again, it's just so aggressive. Giving him a 2-for-1 right out the gates. So I was just checking if we were checking. is he looking on his own cards or is he looking on in my card? But he looked on his own in his own top deck. Sometimes they look on your deck in the top card, or sometimes they look on their own to find out it should the filter off the land. We play down the Tide Chipper and we attack in. The reason why we don't play the Lord here is that A, we didn't hit a land, so we want to make sure we hit lands, and B, we are trying to keep him off red mana to stall him. The concept of how I play Spreading Seas in this deck is that I don't want to sit with him in hand and just do nothing with him. It's not my intention to necessarily aggressively play all the lords in a row, because then he might just have a lot of removal spells. I want to make him stumble a bit to pressure him a bit, and then I can suddenly just play 2 lords and hit in for a lot of damage. That's why the Spreading Seas are much better early, and sometimes they are fine. Unfortunately, he had a counter spell. And he plays down another card, and I don't want to put in a lord in this situation into his counterspell, and he actually had Artemis' Charm. Here the Benthic Biomancer is a better play because he's not going to be so into counter magic using that on the Biomancer. So he plays down his Dragon Rage Challenger in foil. That's great. Interesting deck this, as he uses, when I saw the Dragon Rage Challenger, now immediately I know, okay, so this guy, he's playing the Murktide deck, which is a really nice deck. I really like Murktide. This is such a strong card. We drew off a third Force of Negation, which is unfortunate. It's not so good in the Murktide matchup, but he can't really block here, so we put in 2 attackers and we just pass the turn. My idea here is that I want to just adapt. Playing down a Lord into a counterspell or a burn spell would just be a waste. So, and now we choose to, when he then Unholy Heats our Tide Chipper, we choose to Biomancer in response. Of course, you could argue, should have a Biomancer main step to get the card draw, but then it would have Unholy Heat killed our Benthic Biomancer, which wouldn't give us a card draw. So I think this is the correct play to do it on response. Bit unfortunate we're stumbling on our land draws here. He plays Expressive Iteration. Notice here that this card would give him exact Delirium. You need to always be aware of his Delirium triggers. He had Sorcery, Land, and Instant. No, I mean, he had Artifact, Instant, and Land. So if the Expressive Iteration would have landed, he would be able to play, have 2 3/3 flyers hitting in. But so the correct play is absolutely to counter it. He plays down the Murktide Regent. I need to have a big play now, so I just put down the Svelune, and I can even protect it for the Force of Negation. He plays the Expressive Iteration again. Notice here, if I don't do this, he will have 12 pounds of 12 power damage in the air. So I need to again counter that. Hopefully he doesn't find a Sorcerer Speed. He's only 1 card in hand. He plays Unholy Heat. And he couldn't Delirium my Svelune. He couldn't Unholy Heat because of Delirium, but he's triggered some Dragon Rage channel to let him put a Murktide Regent in his yard, and then he had a creature there. So he could overpower us with the 12 powers in the air. We put in relics, of course, against Dragon Rage channels. We need to keep their graveyard low. Against this deck, Spreading Seas is bad. They don't play any specific lands, and trying to keep them off their mana when they have a good mana base, like a 2-colored mana base. Force of Negation, they don't have the big spells they want to counter, and countering 1 mana or 2 mana spells is not as good. Putting in the subtleties are good because subtlety and Murktide reading is really strong, and he'll also play subtlety or Fury out of the sideboard. And against this matchup, I want to get the pressure on the play, so putting down a Tide Chipper early, which is typically going to be a 2/2, is pretty great. He puts down Ragavan, and as I said, we're going to fight Ragavan today. We're going to beat and fight against the monkey. we don't want to get in for 1 damage. If he had a removal spell on the Adept, he would just get in for Ragavan value. So we would just, much rather in this situation, just be ready to block. Because he doesn't play any islands, I'm just gonna block with a Tide Shaper. And he lets us trade and passes the turn. So this looks like Counterspell. And let's see if he has it. Because of Counterspell, I didn't want to play down Svelun into the Counterspell, but it didn't have it. So I play down the Master, attack with the Adept, and play down the Relic. When using Relic, don't get in the bad habit of using it in end step all the time. Just use it when you can. So he evokes Fury. We subtlety it. He's still 2 lands away from being able to cast it. And he plays Dress Down. And I'm just like, that does nothing, sir. Yes, you'll keep your Fury, but I'll also keep my subtlety. And I actually think this play favors me, playing the Dress Down in this situation. So both the elementals stay in play. And again, as soon as I untap with Relic, I use it just to keep his under control. The Adept has Island Walk. Notice here, I'm confused. But he played down 2 Spybluff Canals. So, horrible mistake. Luckily, we can play down the Svelun right after. This was just a big mistake, but normally they just have the islands down, and I just thought the Spybluff Canal were steam vents. Just playing a bit hastily. Again, we Relic. Put down a lot of pressure here. Notice how we can board out and still hitting in with the subtlety in the air. We also can hit in with Svelun. No Island Walk, of course, but it's a 4/5 indestructible. And you need to respect the damage. Luckily, it doesn't look like our mistake is gonna hurt us here, as we have a really good draw. We're boarding out really nicely here, playing a lot of pressure. So looking at this situation, I don't think the counter spells are good still. And 2 subtleties are fine. We draw this hand. This is crazy. You're on the draw with a vial. This can be argued to have a keep here because the vial will make sure that you relatively fast will be able to get the Adept in. He plays Ragavan. Good draw from us. Considering here, should we play the Tide Shaper to block, or should we play the vial? I'm in general. This is a pretty untraditional play. Normally, the line many people would use was just to play the Tide Shaper just to block. But then again, when am I ever gonna get the Ether Vial in play then? So I rather just want to see if I can fade 1 attack with the Ragavan. It backfires hard, and he gets to put down a Lord of Atlantis. This situation, in retrospect, one of the things I should have been doing here, I was considering, okay, should I subtlety this or not? We were considering that, but we also could say that, well, this Lord is also going to give us power and toughness boost, and making our creatures indestructible. But maybe in respect to subtletying, it could be pretty strong. We wouldn't get it back to hand, and I would be vulnerable to the Fury if he played that. And our hope was that he didn't have so many removal spells to be able to take us out here. But 2 lightning bolts in a row means that he could put away 2 of our blockers. He plays Expensive Variation. Good value play. Interestingly, we keep the Vial on 1. This is just to be able to play the Benthic Biomancer, because I rather want to block with the Benthic Biomancer than a Lord of Atlantis. So I think it's correct just to keep it on 1, so we can block the Ragavan. And this situation is just like, okay, so you have 3 Lightning Bolts and Unholy Heat. And he finds a Tide Shepherd, which he can use to kill off our Motor Vault. So now it's looking really bad. We are really far behind now and need to play clutch. But notice again, the Brazen Borrower draw was pretty interesting. We can Vial up now, and now we can actually even play the Subtlety hardcast. So this is becoming a bit interesting now. We were considering should we Subtlety, but actually it's better in this situation to get the 3/3 down. And now we have Brazen Borrower activation up. And the concept of this play is to Brazen Borrower the Lord, and then use our Vial to put it in. This is aggressive because his Titan will be 4/4 unblockable, and I know, of course, that's pretty scary. So see, we bounce down up the Lord. We block now. We can't block because he didn't attack with the Ragavan, but we can then put in Lord of Atlantis. He plays Murktide Regent. Luckily, we didn't put in the Lord because we needed to, of course, evoke that card. So we need to find a solution for the Tide Shepherd. It's a 3/3, so we can get hit twice. But we can't really play down the Master at this moment, because then his Tide Shepherd will be lethal. But luckily, we drew the Trickster, which was one of our outs. Now we can get in for 3 damage. And even have a Trickster up. This is again a situation where Waterlogged Grove is such a great card. It allows you to filter late, to adjust situations like that and find the solution. He uses Archmage's Charm to draw 2 cards. And then in response to his Polluted Delta, I play down the Trickster and tap down the Tide Shepherd. Notice the order of doing this. This is actually really important because these guys plays with a lot of counterspells, and he hasn't played a counterspell this game, or this specific game yet. So I want to Trickster down when he was using the fetch land to get the island. So he couldn't counter the Trickster because we needed the power. We are dead in 2 turns. Luckily we draw the Lord and we can actually kill him immediately. So I actually think this is really clutch playing, getting back in this game, even though it was tight. So we are 2-1 now, 2-1 in the Modern League, even though we're behind in the start. Great stuff. We play against a guy showing Kahira. This could mean a lot of things. We keep this hand. Glasspool Mimic, good card. One of the reasons why it's good is because the Merfolk deck doesn't have that much regarding good 1-drops. We have the Ether Vials and we have the Tide Shapers, but the Tide Shapers is typically a 2-drop. So the Glasspool Mimics gives us something to do both late but also early. It can be our 1-drop, converting that into a land. In this situation, it gives us a better draw. But sometimes the Glasspool Mimic can also be awkward. I only play with 2 in my version of the deck. We play Adept. When I play Adept, I want to show either Adept or Lord, typically. Lord, we have 8 Lords, so they typically expect that. And Adept is just something that they're not going to play differently, knowing that we have an Adept. So they play down the Windswept Thief and a Breeding Pool. I was considering here, can we keep him off some sort of mana? But converting the Breeding Pool into island only might not even be that strong. So instead, we might just want to put down the Svealoon in this situation. The good thing about playing the Svealoon is it's an optimal mana usage. And we don't really know what we're up against. If we're playing against something like Solitude, he might even just be able to kill us anyways. This looks like it's some sort of elemental deck, but we can't be sure yet, and we haven't seen a red source for the Fury. So here we're really considering, do we want to put down the Svealoon or not? But we consider Svealoon might be the right play, but We could also take the more conservative line of just playing down the Adept, and of course the Tide Chipper, which is a 2/2. So this is where we say, okay, Svelun, we don't want to get that to be burned out here, so we just put down a lot of pressure cards. And the Adepts are great because they're just interchangeable. It's just 3 2/1s that cycle themselves. So he puts down Cavern mentioning Elementals. So now we know it's Elementals. He takes Teferi Time Reveler, and it chooses to bounce exactly no creatures. This is a weird play, and now he evokes Fury. This is a good play. This sweeps our board. Not much we can do about that. And Teferi is live. We do the second Svelun, which makes our play easier. We can put that one down. We don't need to play Otavara yet because we could just double spell next turn and hopefully he won't be able to do anything about the Svelun. There's a consideration for playing the Otavara, because if you draw a land, then you could be able to play Svelun and one more. But anyways, he solituded. So it didn't really matter in this situation. Play down Svelun. Endurance. I like Endurance, it's a good card. Not so good against us. But this deck is so strong because they also play the Risen Reef. And using the Risen Reef with the evoke creatures actually just means that the drawback of evoking is just being nullified totally. We play down the Lord, which means that our Svelun is unblockable. This is great. We can draw a card, and we can also kill down the Teferi. We drew a land of our normal draw step, and we drew a Tide Chipper. This is a situation where we want to consider, are we just going to hold up mana for the Trickster, or are we using Tide Chipper now? But we wanted to just hold up the mana for the Trickster, and then Trickster Risen Reef in upkeep. The reason why this is a good play is that it just takes him off Risen Reef value from his from all his elementals, which I know he's going to play more of. He plays Utopia Sprawl on the Breeding Pool. They use that as a ramp spell. And he puts his Kahira in hand. Okay, so this is interesting. Notice that one of the things about Utopia Sprawl is that it's specifically focused on targeting a forest, which means that if you convert the Breeding Pool into something that's not a forest, for example, with Tide Chipper into an island, the Utopia Sprawl will actually fall off. And he is kind of stuck on 4 lands, so by doing this, he can't hardcast his elementals. And we can also put down a master and start beating in for a lot of damage here. Unluckily for us, he has the Solitude he can flash in. He can take down and remove our Svelun. We still get in for 7. And actually, look at this. He's pretty dead next turn with the Mutavault, Double Lord, and 2 other creatures in play, and even a Lord on hand. He's totally dead next turn. But this is where the Elementals deck, just proves so strong. He plays Omnath. And notice here, this is actually the other Omnath, the one that's killing a creature. So they play 4 of the big Omnath that's giving life and drawing cards, and 1 of Omnath Locus of the Royal. It takes down our master. And then he can Solitude. I'm just in disbelief at this moment, because I was just considering, okay, so how much damage can it give him next turn? 15, 16? And now he's just cleaning board. He even finds a Fury of the Risen Reef. And this is just, normally I would just want to give praises, but this is just becoming disgusting. So now he just, entirely sweeps our board and plays out, like all of these elementals. But again, what our luck is that we are not out of it yet. Considering here, what should we do? We want to, of course, do what we can in regards to board out. So we want to play the Svelun and hold the Lord of Atlantis as a joker in hand. We don't want to kick the Tide Chipper, because kicking the Tide Chipper will mean that we won't be able to activate Mutavault, and the activation of Mutavault will give Sverloon indestructible. Now he plays down the big Omnath, not something I'm happy about at this moment, because it means that he'll go back up to 14 from playing a land. And then he ephemerates his own Omnath. We can't do anything about this. This is the Omnath who is the killer Omnath. He finds a land, he gets 4 more life. And he targets his Sverloon. So notice here that, again, he targets his Sverloon with the Omnath, not being fully understanding of the fact that I can actually activate the Mutavault. So I activate the Mutavault, leaving Sverloon indestructible. So the 4 damage, yes, is nullified. And he can't do anything about that. He can't really attack either, because our Sverloon is still indestructible. Either Vial is a bad draw. Sitting here, considering we can get in for a lot of damage. The Mutavault and the Tideshipper can both attack in. And if we play the Lord, they will be unblockable. And the Sverloon can also attack in. This leaves us vulnerable, but we are on a lot of life. And this is actually 10 damage, putting him down to 4. He's 1 card in hand. Is it worth getting him down to 4 at this moment? Or should we just try to cycle Waterlock Grove? But I think the correct play is, as we do here, to say let's go all in. Spring Seas is a bad draw. He rebounds Ephemerate. And he even finds Solitude. So with Ephemerate on the stack, he can play Solitude, instant speed. And you can see how this again goes totally off. He wiped my entire board. I managed to regain board position, and then he just keeps doing this with the elementals. So this is a crazy game. I think that we were on the back foot for over like we were way in front. He bounces back by playing a lot of chaining a lot of elementals. We regained control, but we couldn't beat him cleaning board 2 times in a row. Solitudes is of course great. This guy plays 8 main deck Furies and Solitudes. Counterspells are good. A lot of big expensive creatures, and he's ramping into them. I want to counter Omnath. I want to counter Hardcast Fury. Spring Seas could be good because he has a bit of an aggressive mana base. The Force of Negations are not good, and the Vapor Snacks are not good, as all creatures they have are comes into play effects. But I don't really see us using Brazen Burrow and Skydiver that much. So we just keep in 2 Spring Seas because then we might be able to hamstring his mana base. This is a decent draw. Not having a Vial is sometimes an issue, but this allows us not only to play Benthic Biomancer, but also chain a couple of interactive spells. But I want to say that one of the things for my wish list when they do Modern Horizons 3 is to give us a stronger 1-drop. Curse Catcher, I know someone is playing Curse Catcher. Someone mentioned on my YouTube channel that they were playing Curse Catcher. And I like Curse Catcher, but I think it's too underwhelming at the moment in this metagame. You know, consider and compare Curse Catcher to Ragavan or Dragon Rage Channeler, or even just something like Ignoble Hierarch. We're not even close. So we choose just to not play the Tideshipper, because I want to also fake the counterspell. And he respects that. He used Prismatic Ending, and we could take down the put down the Trickster. We could also have activated the Adept on the Benthic Biomancer, but I don't think that's worth it, and we actually also think we have a decent hand here. So we're considering here which should we take him off white or off red, and we choose to take him off white mana. I mean green mana. He has a forest, so he got back to his green mana. I could have considered playing here the Tideshipper, and I actually think that might be the correct play, but I just wanted to see if I can stall his mana a bit more out. But here I think actually it would be better just to put down another creature to put pressure on. He puts down Harbinger, Flamekin. I think he finds Risen Reef. Yeah, Risen Reef. Land is a good play. A good draw. It's actually not that hot to play the Lord, because if he Furies, he can still take down 2 creatures. It doesn't really change it that much. In this situation, we want to keep him off red instead. In retrospect, this is actually a pretty bad play to use the Fury Tidetable to give him an island in this situation. Then he could play the Risen Reef. He did have a Misty Rainforest, but he found that off the stack, so I think we played ourselves a bit here. Just be aware and consider the situation always. What are we actually aiming for? Because they play blue mana. He prismatic ending our Svaeloon, which is pretty bad for us. We can still beat in for a lot of damage, and it's putting pressure on him now. We will again try to stall his mana a bit here. I think we actually have a pretty decent position. If we can just draw Lord, we have a good chance here. It was unlucky that he had the prismatic ending on our Svaeloon. Pretty decent position. He's only on 6 HP. But a lot of cards in hand. Omnath is not good for us. He'll draw a card, and he'll probably find a land to get life off this. So we're not in love with this play for him. And he evokes Fury, cleans up our board. So we see kind of a pattern here. I think this game could have gone better for us if we would have been more aware of his own mana. He draws Salty, which is really good draw. We can use it on his Omnath. He puts it on, I think he puts it on, let's see. We're happy about playing Subtlety this moment. This is a good tempo swing, and it's also a good flyer that can come in. He's on 6 HP, so he might die. And also drawing a Lord will also be strong, as we have the Mutavault down. He's just looking at this because he plays it off his Cavern of Souls, and I'm just like, I think he's wondering why is my Cavern not working. But of course, we can Subtlety something that's played off Cavern. That doesn't really matter, because it doesn't say counter. So he ephemorates the Omnath. He doesn't. The real thing about this play is that he only have 2 elementals, so he can't really, kill anything. This is an interesting draw, because the Benthic Biomancers is good, of course, because we can actually adapt, and we could also bounce our Obora back to hand. But we couldn't, it was too mana intensive, so we couldn't do it to find the Lord and also activate Mutavault. This would be, of course, be the dream scenario. But we just want to get it down now anyways, because we want to search as much as possible and use our mana this turn. So notice here, Obora actually is valuable, because he'll bounce, with Ephemerate, he'll bounce the Omnath, killing off the Benthic Biomancer. We're gonna use the Benthic Biomancer. We're gonna bounce back the Oboro, because we need to find a Lord. Don't find a Lord. This is where we would have wanted to do that in our own turn, because a Mutavault in play would have been great. And this is actually where it's really bad. Vesper Lark is an annoying play at this moment, because now he has a blocker. And when it dies, he gets to get back creatures. And it's a flyer to block our subtlety. So he actually finds a solution. He even puts a counter on it so he can trade with subtlety. So this was unfortunate. Now we're looking into can we draw a trickster? We draw a counterspell. It's a horrible draw. We're still in it. We are at 11. Can't attack in because he'll just trade with Vesper Lark. He plays Teferi. We can counter it. Gets it in a big elemental token, but in this situation we are all in. We can't get him. We can't have him playing Teferi at that time. If he bounced subtlety, we wouldn't be able to replay it because of the Teferi passive effect. He's boarding out. But we are still one Lord away from winning. He attacks in. One Lord, one Trickster, one time. We find a Lord. We can activate a Mutavault. It was of course too good to be true. Really unfortunate in this situation. So now we are 2-2. We are 2-2. And we play our last match, and stay tuned for this one. This was a great one. We have a decent hand. He shows us one companion. This is Lurus. And we can keep our 7 cards in this situation. He plays a Blood Grip into Inquisition. What is he gonna take? He takes our Master. Can only just play down an island. He puts down Thoughtseize. Plays a Thoughtseize. So from the mana we can gather right now that it's not Grixis Death Shadow, but rather the Rakdos version that is playing Kroxa instead, which is kind of crazy good deck. Okay, so Blood Crypt. Considering here, maybe try to keep him off black mana. And again, as I mentioned earlier, I rather want to be proactive and using my Spreading Seas early when I can get value from them, instead of playing a Trickster or something here, just into a removal spell. Unlucky for us, he draws the Urbok, so now he can filter all his lands into black mana. And we want to get pressure on now, because we can't sit and wait and wait for him to get value. He just put Lurus into hand and can start getting a lot of value. So we put down Svelun saying, you can't possibly have a Terminate. But he did. Fatal Push couldn't kill it, Lightning Bolt couldn't kill it, Unholy Heat couldn't kill it, so it had to be exactly Terminate. So in this situation, we can't double spell. So what could we do? We could actually activate the Mutavault and attack in instead. And then hold up Trickster. So he plays down the Dorothy Voidwalker, the shadow creature. And we just want to get a trickster in, even though it doesn't really matter at this time. But we need to put some pressure on him. And we actually have a pretty decent top deck here. He immediately lightning bolts it, but we have a good top deck. Because notice that even though he drew Yurborg, that's his only black source, and it gives him infinite black sources. So we draw the Spreading Seas, which means that we can keep him off black mana by using Spreading Seas on Urborg. Dorothy Vaultborg costs 2 black mana, so even if he plays a black source, he won't be able to replay Dorothy Vaultborg if you also Vapor Snag it. And notice here we use our Warlock Grove with the Urborg activation to get a black mana from the Warlock Grove, so he don't take damage. It's the small plays that matters. We play another Warlock Grove, we activate Muda Vault, we beat in for 2, and then we Vapor Snag the Dorothy Voidwalker so he can't replay it. We need to do that now. Okay, so this is perfect position. We put him way back. He put down the Dragon Rage Channeler. We draw a Muda Vault. I'm not unhappy about that. It gives us a couple of good plays. We play the Lord of Atlantis. We play the Muda Vault, and we can attack in with a 3/3. Unblockable, because he has 2 islands from the island from the Spreading Seas. And now upkeep, we want to trickster down the Dragon Rage Channel. This is also a really decent trickster target in general, because trickstering down them will mean that he will have no surveil effect. And notice here that he finds the Graven Caverns, which is actually really lucky, but he was too far behind at that time, so he chose to concede anyways. We just managed to stall him a lot with these nuisance Spreading Seas effects and boarding out, and he didn't manage to find enough removal spells to handle it. We don't want to use Force Negations. They don't have that many expensive spells. All the spells cost 1 or 2. We also don't want Ether Vials. When they play Thoughtseize Inquisitions, it's a game of value, and if they Thoughtseize our Inquisition, or the Inquisition our Ether Vial, or Thoughtseize our Ether Vial, or the targets we want to play in, it suddenly becomes a lot much worse card. Relics are good because we can control the yard, also regarding both lures. Brazen Burrows are good because we want to be able to be interactive and do some bounce. Also playing something in end step that can fly over them and put it on the pressure. Interesting hand this. He plays down Ragavan. So in this situation, we're considering should be either Relic, Tidechipper, or Vapor Snag. But actually we want to just Vapor Snag it, just to stall him a bit here. The problem with playing the Tidechipper is that he will most definitely have a removal spell and being able to play that. And notice here that he can't even replay it because he only have 1 red source. So I actually think that was the correct play. The Relic would have been too slow, and then he would just outvalue us with Ragavan. So in this situation, I think actually the Vapor Snag play was pretty decent, even though it's a card disadvantage play. So he gets Dragon Channel up and running. We could either try to get him off red mana by Spreading Seas. We could also play 2 Tidechippers, which are just 1/1s, which is pretty good because then we can Spreading Seas next turn, and then it would be 2/2s. Or we could just play 1 Tidechipper and try to get him off his mana now. When you use Tidechipper to get him off some sort of mana, make sure that the land you're using it on, if it's red, if it's untapped, they'll just be able to lightning bolt it. We take the really conservative route of using Spreading Seas because we don't want to get fatal pushed. Unlucky for us, he finds Graven Cavern, which allows him to play double red spells. He starts by using Thoughtseize. I think it takes out the Master. And he plays a dash Ragavan. He hits nothing of relevance. We found the Demon Skydiver. The reason why we take them in is that it's just cheap creatures that can trade, because they don't really have artifacts we want to block. But against the Ragavan decks, it's just good to have some cheap creatures. because of Dragon Rage Channel, there's an argument of getting the Relic up and running. For some reason, he has not taken Relic yet from Thoughtseized on Acquisition. I actually think that might be a mistake. Relic is so strong, and now we're considering to try to give him off the Graven Cairns, because that'll put him off mana. But the problem with taking him off Graven Cairns is that Urborg will use then it could be used for black mana. So we take the Urborg instead, because now we actually have no colored mana, because the Graven Caverns need colored mana to filter mana, but he finds a Bloodstained Mire, doesn't really matter then. So he plays Unholy Heat on the Tideshipper. And now Dragon Rage Channel is up and running. It's not good for us. Only one card in hand, but he can dash in the Ragavan. And this is actually where I think he makes a mistake. Why would he let us allow us to trade with the Ragavan at this point? I think it's because he thinks that he can replay it next turn with Lurrus. In this situation, we of course are getting beaten down, but playing the Relic allows us to start getting control of the game and his graveyard again. We can't really take that much damage, so we are glad that we drew the Trickster, but now he showed us it's because he had the third Ragavan, so that's why he attacked him before. So he's going to dash this in. Now we're considering what should we do with the Trickster. Can we take a hit? Trickster is great against Dragon Rage Channeler because it gets it down to be a 1-1. But we are of course also annoyed by Ragavan. So in this situation we need to consider, should we take out the Dragon Rage Channeler, letting us get hit by Ragavan, which can be really dangerous as he maybe are able to play it. But in this situation he had the Lightning Bolt, so we didn't even get the block in. We wanted to block the Dragon Rage Channeler to get that off board. And now this is where the game becomes interesting, because he actually finds the Brazen Borrower, and he can actually play that. So he can bounce the Relic, and now he gets the Brazen Borrower in his own exile zone, so he can replay the Brazen Borrower if he gets one more island. So we are on the back foot. We find another Relic. This is where cracking the Relic could be good, because we can then empty his yard. But we choose to say, let's take one more hit and then just play down the Skydiver 2-1 flyer. He does in Ragavan. Again, I don't know why he lets us trade here in this situation. Again, the reason why we played the Skydiver was actually exactly because of his Ragavan in hand. He dashed in last turn. So now it's worth just to exile the yard. We have another Relic coming in, and this means that his Dragon Rage channels are 1/1s and he's down to 0 cards in hand. So this is where I don't understand why he let us trade. We want to wait by exiling until he plays Lurrus. He puts Lurrus in hand. He attacks with 2 creatures, and now the good thing here, just a little pause here. What I neglected to mention is that the good play here is that don't empty the yard yet. Dragon Rage Channels needs to attack, so that's why we didn't do it yet. That's why we waited, and now he was forced to attack in. We can activate the Motor Vault, use the Relic, block one of the Dragon Rage Channel, and get a free kill. We draw a Terrara and just excited about all our lands in hand. But a good play to get the Mono block in on the Dragon Rage General. We were really happy about that. And he couldn't do anything about it. He had to attack. He plays lures, nothing from the yard, so now it's just a 3-2. And he passes the turn. So in this situation, it's becoming a bit scary. We only on 7, and we drew a land again. Of course, we can crack the relic to find something. We can also use Otavara to bounce something. So he didn't want to attack in here because Mutavault could block the Dragon Stranger and Lurus could get blocked. We draw another land. Not happy about that one. And now he attacks in, which signals, okay, he found the removal spell. Not much we could do here. We can't really just sit around and wait, so we just want to try to activate it. And now he removes with a removal spell. It's both. It's a good play because it's a call against command, so it's not only is it killing our Mutavault, it's also using relic. We wanted to get the surveil activation. He puts the land in the yard, and then we can remove the land, so just to keep his delirium off pace. We do a spreading seas, which is not great. And now we are considering Otavara, so we don't take too much damage. And we choose just to bounce lures back to hand. He replay lures, fair enough. So we are still on 6. Now notice how we're spreading seas the Blackleaf Cliffs, because we don't want to get him Brazen Burrow mana. We find the Adept. We find the we could play the Adept because we drew the Master, and now we play the Master. Now we have two blockers. This is a good interaction, good play. He finds Inquisition. That's a good draw because it of course allows him to remove our Svealoon. Unfortunate for us. He played Croxa. We go down to 3, and he can replay the Croxa. Pretty soon he can replay the Croxa, so we need to find a solution here. That's why we need to draw. So we copy the Adept and find a Warlock Grove. We use that to find something. We find a Vapor Snag. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. We can hit him for 3 damage. The good thing about the Vapor Snag is that when he replays Croxa now, we can discard the Vapor Snag, which means that we won't die to it. And then he can now give Lure Sphere, and we can't do anything about it because he top decked the Shizu land. So really close game. We lost it, unfortunately. So it's 1-1 in the final game of this Modern League. Okay, I would say that was really close to us getting back, even though he was using a lot of value cards, good cards. We have a decent starting hand. We have the Relic, which is a great turn 1 play, and he can Thought Seize us. We have Trickster. He plays down the Ragavan from the island. So there's considerations here. What do we do? Here we try to keep him off red by Tide Shivering. There could also be a better play just to Trickster down and tap the Ragavan. But what we want to get creatures on the board. He has a Lightning Bolt, so now he can hit us with Ragavan. This is the bad thing about that draw, and I think sometimes the correct play could have been just to Trickster in the upkeep. But then we would also be starting to play with a lot with the Warlock Grove, taking a lot of damage. Again, we use the Relic immediately. We Spreading Seas his Blood Crypt. We don't find a creature, so we will get hit by Ragavan again. I mean, controlling his hand. But again, now the Ragavan is starting to run a bit rampant here. And notice here he finds a Brazen Burrow again. And this time he can use it again. Bounce our Relic. We try to keep him off red. Now, if he wants to have red mana up, he needs to crack the treasure token. This situation, we just want to trade with Muda Vault. We just need to get that Ragavan stopped, and we are just continuously drawing lands. So we are pretty much in the back foot here, because he can also Lightning Bolt it. He gets another hit in. He finds a Benthic Biomancer, so he can play that, and he can even cycle that. So this is a situation where we could consider us being stone dead in this situation. We're so far behind. We find a Trickster, which is a decent play. We really want to get that Ragavan off the board. He still has 3 cards in hand, so a lot of things is not going right for us. But now we have Otavara up, we have Trickster up. He can adapt. Discards Ragavan. So in this situation, we don't want to get hit anymore, so we just want to put it on the Trickster. He attacks in with the Biomancer, and we're considering just blocking here, because we can't take all the damage. He plays Croxa. We can discard the Relic, which is fine. Don't need that. We find Vapor Snag. Again, not exciting. What we're aiming for here is he's putting in Brazen Burrow in step. And the situation is now we can actually Otavara the Brazen Burrow, or Vapor Snag it and replay it in the same turn. Unfortunately, he has a call against command, so he can actually kill it in response. And he gets in a Ragavan hit, hitting an island, and puts Lurrus in hand. So again, we are far behind here. We crack the Relic, we need to find an answer. Luckily, we actually managed to find the Lord of Atlantis with the Trickster in hand. Not unfortunate. So this situation, we want to get Ragavan to attack us, and we want to then play down the Trickster and block it with a 3/3. Unlucky for us, he can give it Fear, but that's not really unlucky, because I was just like, well, the Trickster removes all its abilities, so it doesn't really have Fear. You need to do that the other way around. He plays Lurrus, he plays Ragavan from the Lurrus, so it doesn't really matter that much. But we can play a Lord, and now we can actually start beating down. 7 downs at this time. So we're slowly clawing back into it. We have a 3/3 blocker. This is again a situation where Lords are just really good chaining them together. We need to block. We're actually considering, should we actually block? Maybe we should just take the damage and gamble all the way, because if he in some way can take us off the Lords, he needs 2 removal spells at this moment. He finds Svelun, but what does it really matter? Playing Svelun at this moment doesn't do anything for him. We are on 7. He's on 9. We have 10 points of attackers. He can play Croxa, and he can actually play Croxa again. So we are on 1 HP, but that's plenty. It's plenty HP. And then we can push in for the victory. So that felt really good. So this was the modern run, and I just want to show it because I was just really excited about beating Ragavan, and even though they did all the lures value grind and played multiple cruxes and stuff like that, we managed to beat them. So that was really cool. Um, and hopefully, if you like my content, I would definitely say come back come back and see some more content I've been doing. There's should be a link here where you can watch my tournament report from the live tournament I played this weekend, where I go through all the matches, and I even also have some gameplay I'm gonna show. And also, really appreciate it if you wanna subscribe to my YouTube channel, because I want to get enough subscribers to be able to do some cool things. So watch some more of my content and subscribe, and hopefully you liked hanging out and watching some Merfolk gameplay. I'll be back with more, but have a great day. Catch you next time.